Hello everyone, it's been a while since I uploaded my last art vlog because in my latest videos I documented how I built up my online shop and prepared my first solo exhibition here in Berlin. During this time I also worked as usual in a side job and finished my bachelor's degree. And there have also been some big life changes in general, and after all these things combined, I really needed to take a break, especially to let it all sink in. And currently I am in this strange state between graduation and my first job. But quickly, before we continue, due to some requests, I will add German subtitles to my videos from now on, and over time I'll also try to add them to my previous videos. Even before I was done with my bachelor project, I was already saying how much I was looking forward to having more time to paint again, and to paint just for the sake of painting. Yes, I did paint a few small things for the products in my shop in November, which is super fun for me, but of course it's for a specific purpose, and towards the end of my bachelor I had a great desire to paint just for the sake of it. Ironically, now that I have time for it, I'm once again having an art blog, and after this exhausting time. It's not a shocker, but I'm still annoyed because I wanted it all the time, and now that I have the possibility, I just can't. And I think it's been over 6 months since I painted my last proper painting. Here, of course, my high expectations of myself come to the surface again, which are certainly not helpful. And that's why I've been trying to draw and paint as playfully and loosely as possible over the past few days. I used different materials and drew motifs that I normally don't draw, such as animals, objects, or landscapes. As you might know already if you've been here for some time, usually I paint and draw rather people. I've also noticed, especially when it comes to painting just for the sake of painting, that it's also helpful to paint off camera sometimes. Don't get me wrong, I love editing videos, especially since it's also a form of conceptualization, designing, and storytelling. I really enjoy it, and I do it first and foremost for myself. However, I unfortunately often don't have so much time to paint, of course, mainly because of the things that just everyone has to do in everyday life, but also because I like to do many different things in my spare time. For example, I like to have enough time for friends and family. I try to make sure I work out regularly. I like to read, I like to crochet, I like to lay in bed and watch movies and series. And when I have time to really paint a more elaborate painting, which just doesn't happen that often, I've also filmed the process, because otherwise I can't work on videos that often either. Still, painting then gets a purpose somehow again. The process takes a bit longer, and it's also a bit like having someone looking over your shoulder. And as I said, I really love working on videos, but I still realized that it's important for me and my creativity to do it off camera as well. So I hope to find a good balance and enough time for that in the future. Last summer I worked for the first time with oil pastels, so I'm not very skilled at it yet, but I love doing it. And in addition, it's very helpful, especially with an art block, to experiment with different materials. I'm not used to drawing and experimenting so casually, which is why I myself am often not particularly convinced of what I'm doing at that moment. Only when I look at it again later, I see that I actually don't find it so bad, and I think it's really just because of how unfamiliar it is. And I think that it's exactly through such techniques that you can develop your own style very well. Especially when it comes to working with different materials, but also painting in general on a regular basis, I often wondered how great would it be to have enough space in the apartment and enough money for a second desk. Then one desk would be for work and the other one for painting. Currently, I also have no space in my apartment for a small dining table, which is why I work at my desk. I eat every meal at my desk and also often spend my free time there. For that reason alone, a separation would be really great. And I think that with a second desk, I would also paint or draw more often in between, because now I always have to get all the materials out first, clean everything up later and put it away again. And then you often don't have the feeling that it's still worth in the evening if you still had 1 or 2 hours. But with an extra table for painting, a lot could just be left outside. However, in my apartment, it is unrealistic for the time being anyway. Therefore, it must currently still work like this. But a girl is allowed to dream, right? I recently did a print exchange with a fellow artist on Instagram who specializes especially in Linocut, which I think is so cool. Please go check her out. Her handle is on the business card I'm showing here. Speaking of Linocut, while experimenting with different materials, this was also part of it for me, and I haven't done Linocuts since sometime last year either. Ooh, and recently I've also tried for the first time painting with gouache, and I'm very excited which color saturation is possible. I also venture directly to landscapes because these are usually not exactly in my comfort zone, as I said, but I think I did a very solid job for one of the first times for me to paint a landscape, and I'm pretty content. Here you can see the exhibition room of my typography bachelor course. At the end of each semester, all final projects are shown within a 2-day exhibition in our Department of Design, and it went very well. If you want to take a closer look at my bachelor project, you can find the link to my portfolio in the description box. Speaking of my portfolio, if you haven't had a chance to check out my website yet, my portfolio and my new online shop are together on my website. Of course, I'm very happy if you have the chance to stop by, and you can find the website linked under every video and all my social media channels. So I think that's it for today. Thank you for choosing to spend some time with me today. If you're also in a creative block right now, you're not alone. I hope you were able to take something away from this for yourself. If you enjoyed the video and haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day and hopefully see you in my next video. Goodbye.